I'm telling you, man.
We are live now.
Yeah. Well, now we are.
L-I-V-E.
Before we weren't. Now.
No, that was a test run. This was not the real talk show. This was just a tribute. But yeah, dude. All right. So we started. Yes, as you were saying, we do get into like crazy conversations, and then it's like, we stop. So let's turn on the mics, and then
like the last time. Okay, so the last time we hung out, I went home, and when I get home, I see this message on my phone, like, bro, I just saw the weirdest stuff, and you just went off. So
yeah.
I was like, I thought you were joking at first. I was like, I'm messing with you, and I'm like, really?
Yeah. Well, and so I guess the easiest way, because, not just for us, because, I mean, we, the three of us know this, but for the listeners, proper context, where I live, where the studio and all that stuff is at, is down on a river. I joke about it all the time, but I'm legit down on a river. Outside of that, where I'm at, while it's very isolated, there are multiple airports that are all around me. And I mean, I'm like big airports, like a couple of, larger, internationals and such like that. So I get a lot of air traffic around here. Nothing crazy, but enough that it's like, I know a plane when I see it. I know a helicopter when I see it.
You know what a plane looks like.
Well, not only looks
all
like,
different sorts, but
like, also sounds like.
Sounds like, and well, yeah, like part of looks like is the normal patterns that you're used to seeing on.
Yeah, I mean between the lights on them, so whether the blinking lights or the forward-facing white lights, the relative shape to them, as well as what lines they fly, because I mean they're very consistent as coming from this airport to that one, or they're heading this way or that. So they all have very consistent lines that I'm used to, as well as again hearing them. I can hear them all day long. It's like, they're off in the distance, but you can get that, that little hum of it, just like, what's doing, and you can hear it behind it, as well as depending on which way it's coming, sometimes when it's coming at you. But when they're going across the sky from, north, south, whatever, I can hear the after, because the plane's obviously going faster than the speed of sound, because it's got to travel down, whatever, thousands of feet, a couple miles at that point or whatever, because of the full distance that it's at. So, but I can still hear that.
It's traveling fast, not faster than the speed of sound, but yeah, it's
their distance to us, the amount of speed that it takes for the sound to travel, it's, you're going to hear it way, way later. So, it has like a mile after trail, and I can still hear the off into the distance behind it. But that's the thing is, they have the white lights, they got the blinky lights, helicopters, same thing. I mean, you get like, dude, I can hear that. I know when there's prop jobbies running up and down the river, because they'll do that because it's wide enough, you can get a small enough plane.
They all make some kind of noise.
And they're distinct. I know each one of them all day long. I mean, I've been here for years. I know what these things sound like. This thing didn't have any sound.
Yeah, like
there was no fucking sound, and that's the thing that started freaking me out a little bit, because it's just like, the sound will kind of trail off, but I'm like, dude, the way it's traveling, it's almost coming towards me in a sense that it's like I should hear you already, because you should already be heading this way, and the sound's already coming at me. So it's like, I should hear you. Fucking hear anything. As well as the whole time. So like it went from my right to my left. And I want to say the distance at which it was, as I've gone back to think about it, the size and shape of this thing, it had to only be maybe a mile off into the sky, two at best. Like, it was close, and still
that could be
fucking
too,
huge.
You don't have a point of reference. Like, you don't know how big it is from the distance. Like, so it's really hard to say. Like, if you knew it was the size of a battleship, you might feel totally differently about how far you think it is away from you.
Well, so the bigger thing to me about all of it is, one, as I'm seeing it coming, what I think is like at me in a sense, it's actually going, like I said, right to left. So it's not coming towards me right to left. It's just kind of going, I'm getting like a side view of it.
Right.
And so I'm looking at it, and because it's got this round, all white, and that's why I said to you before, is it wasn't a white light. It was almost like a white dot in the sky. Like if you just took a piece of paper, of the whitest paper you could find, and just like got it to hang out there with nobody, no strings or nothing. It's just floating along, just like, doing its thing. It was a white dot. It didn't look like light to me.
Not luminescent.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it wasn't like you know, it almost looked like a pearl, but white.
So it wasn't giving off its own source of light at the time.
Well,
like it was.
Again, I'm not saying it wasn't light. I'm just saying the way it looked color wise and how it radiated, it didn't look like light.
And did it look like, did you see like glare coming off or what looked like glare? Or
well, so the overall encounter was, you know, like 7 seconds, 8 seconds, like it was nothing.
Which is kind of a substantial amount of time for something you would think.
Well, so that's where I'm like, from there, I'm trying to figure out, you know, how far was it? You know, what could be the expectations on it? Well, if it is that far, how big does that mean? And like the fact that any in all of those sizes, the speed that it went at wasn't like insanely fast in my perception, as far as, you know, what we would be like the ones where they're just like, and they're just like gone. You're like, I thought I saw it. I don't know. You know, they go so quick that you don't see it. This thing was faster than a plane. Because I mean, here's the thing: is all right.
And it was taking a different trajectory. Like it wasn't.
Well, so I'm literally just, you know, you had just left. You know, I'm still outside, just kind of chilling. You know me, I love looking up at the stars because you can see them really well down here. So I just, you know, looking up at the sky and just like, oh man, this is a really nice night. And in doing that, I'll see planes. You know, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, 1 in the morning. Like, dude, there's always going to be planes, pretty much. Like, no matter what, if I stand around long enough outside, a plane will go by.
Yeah, and you know, you get caught watching them, but like I know what you mean. Like I've seen plenty of planes, and they're not as close to me, probably in flight, as they may be around this area.
Well, yeah, because again, the airports that are near me are close enough that most of these are still in a, you know, ascent, like they're still going up.
Right.
So most of them all have a relative, you know, ascent position where they're nosed up and going higher.
That's a different thing that stands out to you too, because they're all coming from the area of expected airline travel is going to be coming from certain parts of the sky for you here because you're used to seeing that.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you get I got Newark over there, I got Philly down there, I got freaking, you know, Allentown International, or where I guess Lehigh International over there. So there's several international. You know, I mean, JFK's not that far off from here. I'll see plenty of those if they're running down to Philly or something like that. So, I mean, I see plenty of planes in the sky in different trajectories that all look normal, either coming up, going down, or just flying a path, possibly turning a little bit because, again, they're just coming up. So it's like, all right, now I got high enough. I now got to rotate over here.
But that was just one part of it, though.
Well,
I mean, so the fact that it was a different flight pattern than you're used to seeing.
Here's the kicker.
It had no lights.
Well, so as I'm looking up at the stars, I see relatively bright, what, you know, looks like whitish. And I'm like, oh, coming at me. It looks like coming from Allentown, low ascent, and getting ready because, like, I think FedEx has a spot up there or something too. So there's just always freaking planes going. And this thing was coming across in a relative pattern where it's like, oh, yeah, you know, it just felt like it was coming out of the Allentown area, you know, the Lehigh Valley one or the FedEx or one of them, right? And I'm thinking that the whiteness of it is its forward-facing lights. And, you know, I'm just looking at it, and it's really big.
Like, there's nothing behind that light.
Well, so that's the thing, is it's really big, and for the line that it's on and how quick it's going, I'm like, you're a plane, right? Like, yeah, where's your tail?
Where's your tail? Where's your blinky lights? Where's your tail?
And I'm literally
the sound, for crying out loud.
So yeah, I mean, I'm like 3 seconds in registering that this thing is coming across, and then for the next 4 or 5 seconds, it's just like, because you're a plane, right? Because you would have a tail. Where's the tail? Why aren't you blinking? Why don't you have a tail or blinking? Why can't I hear you? Where did you just go? It was like, it just happened. Because to me, if it was a plane, it had a view, again, coming right to left, but it seemed like I was getting a sideline view of it, and it started to turn to head, you know, west, and now I'm just catching the backside of it. So all the lights just kind of like just dimmed and turned into nothing. So it's more or less this big white ball with a, you know, as I keep trying to explain to you, because
you said you were talking to it leading up to that too.
No, I was talking to a star that I was looking at because it had a weird twinkle to it. And I was just like, bro, I was like, if you're one of them Johnnies, and I'm doing this in my head, I'm not saying it like I'm saying it in my head, and I'm also visualizing it. So instead of speaking it, I'm just
like, I don't know you.
I'm seeing the picture of it in my mind and showing it doing what it's doing, like a straight image copy, and then turn off and then come back on. And I'm looking at this thing to do it which I'm like, are you a star? Are you something in the sky? Like, it's just been hanging out, like straight sitting, but it's twinkling more than like a star does. It's got a weird kind of...
Well, planets will do that. They appear to twinkle.
Well, and so that's why I'm getting ready to like pull my phone and be like, are there any of the planets that I can see if I'm looking west right now? Like,
yeah, you can actually get, there's a couple of different ones you can get for free, but there's like it shows you all the constellations.
Oh, you can just like point it in the sky. And but so
actually, even some of them will show you satellites too, which is pretty cool.
But yeah, so that's the thing is I'm looking at this, what I think is a star at this point, and all of a sudden, as I'm telling it to do this, and it's just like, nah, and then all of a sudden, bing, from the right-hand side, I'm getting, from my peripheral, what I'm thinking is relative possible, just like plane in the sky. Mm. But again, here's the kicker: is as
like
it goes
double take.
Well, because as it goes right to left, that's what I'm saying. It's just like it wasn't light, like it wasn't like a ball of light, because it didn't have radiance to the point that no,
but the fact that you could see it in the night sky, though.
Well, yeah, but so to me, it wasn't like a plane at that point where the forward-facing whites, the bright light, dude, those things that they trail in front of them.
Right.
You can see that, especially around here, because there's like little to no light pollution. So it's a really nice sky. So it's easy to see those. Because I mean, even the ones that are like way up there, I can see them when they're going in that direction. I can see the lights ahead of them.
Right.
Not just on them, but I can see that little tail to it too. So it's like, you can see pretty well around here. Well, again, this thing, the way it positioned itself, or my perception of how it went from the right to left, and then almost seemed like it started to bank in, to the right, because the way it disappeared was this, very light, bright white. And it literally just slowly shrunk on itself.
It had a tail, and then as it kind of went past and either changed direction or whatever, like
it was just a ball.
It like disappeared down to a ball and then just disappeared altogether.
Yeah, and I mean, it just, as closing the aperture on a camera, where you just slowly turn it down and you get like smaller, nothing. And I'm instantly just thinking to myself, I'm like, that didn't have a tail.
So this keeps calling conversations to mind about, was it CE5? Is that?
Yeah, the Dr. Greer, Close Encounter, fifth.
Talking.
Yeah, the interaction with it.
Trying to interact with it, trying to see if you can get a reaction, because that's one of the things they do. They use laser pointers and like night vision cameras and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, there's so many questions it brings to mind. I mean, and whether you believe in something like that or not, like, but there's enough evidence out there to show that we've actually, that different governments have actually been working on either reverse engineering.
Technically, the Americans, the Russians, and the Chinese all have them. The Americans and the Russians are very specific and have been working for a long time, so they're pretty well done. And the Chinese is like new to the game. But
using these technologies that utilize
anti-gravitics is the common term.
Anti-gravitics.
Yeah, it means zero gravity, but that's like you were saying in the movie The Explorers. That's how you can have this ball and you can make these crazy speeds and turns, and your internals don't melt on you.
Were they actually trying to tell us something in that movie? I don't know.
Dude, but that's all right. So, but this is an extension
that
of like
creates, like that.
Well, because when we first started talking, it's like, hey, this, that, and the other. And it's like, yeah, no. There's tons of stuff here that so I was like, we need to stop. Let's get the equipment on and let's do that. But quick point though. Again, as this thing turns, as I'm perceiving it, I don't think it did or not. I don't know. It could have literally
out and
it could have literally just slowed itself down and then turned. So it, having again, like I thought it was like a light distortion tail. Like it wasn't tic tac shape, even though it had that elongated body, but it was the white solidness in the front and like what seemed like a relative light distortion tail, as if gravity was going around it and what was there of itself was being, wisp off like a comet or something. But so the big point on that, and that's why I really stressed it in the beginning of all that was, dude, I don't care how far this thing was, its size in relation to that, I would have heard it. I would have heard, there was not a finger. No noise. Like no. And I even know this for a fact because all of a sudden, like 5 seconds after that, I see another one in a direct actual, and it's just, this is a real plane. Got the blinky lights. You can see the tail. It's got the front facing lights and as it trails behind. I can see it. I can hear it, and it's in that path. And now I'm like inside my head, I'm like, what the fuck?
This was actually
no noise, no tail, no lights. Dude, that thing was bright. And that's when I started looking at the star again. I was like, if we bring that back, show me I'm not fucking crazy. And I saw that shit.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, something traveling that fast, even if its engines weren't making noise, like you would still hear the movement of air. You would hear something.
Oh, especially as fast as it was going. Technically, it should have had sonic boom. Like it was going faster than sound.
Kind of leads to my curiosity about, well, maybe it's something that actually manipulates the energy field around it to such an extent that it's toying with matter. Like the air doesn't make enough of an effect on it to create a drag coefficient to make noise.
Yeah, and part of like, as we were starting to talk earlier, and I said, hey, stop it, let's turn them on and stuff. One of my things that I've been, and I think, the three of us have really been talking about is the whole like resonating on that frequency of whatever, that frequency is. When your perception is based within that, to me, it's the sense that all of the alternate or parallel universes or worlds were all literally stacked on each other in the same exact, way in a sense, but just on different frequencies. So depending on what you're resonating on, that'll get you to even, quantum leap from world to world. And all of a sudden it's like, that's where Mandela effects come in, because you yourself recall it of this, but it's like, yeah, no, that was when you were in that world. What if now over here,
dude? I mean, what if we've been flashy thingied and we don't even know it? Like as a culture, you know what I'm saying? Like, what if we've been flashy thingied, and those weird moments are like where the Matrix tries to patch itself because it realizes you might notice something.
You're right.
And it's sometimes it has a hiccup.
Dude, that's a solid point, because we were joking about that before. It's like, hey, Kay, you ever flashy thing me, man? Hey, I'm being for real over here. How many times you? No, man, I didn't. But dude, yeah, because
like at the 6 o'clock news, like everybody just gets flashy thinged. I mean, and like obviously you'd have to do multiple layers because then everybody watches TV at whatever. But there's got to be maybe it's worked in there. Maybe whatever history we've been told. It's because it's so easy to cover up. You just flashy thing us, and
dude, I feel like this is
in the night sky.
I feel like this in and of itself is like a whole possibility that we should probably even like do a little research and come back and talk about this at some point. That'd be fucking dope.
I really like that theory, because it's more like the spacecraft that they're in doesn't have to have faster than light travel,
right?
Because it doesn't really have to go anywhere. This is a definition of where that's connected to time, which is something we don't understand scientifically yet.
Okay,
like
so
time, space cannot be separated. The two things cannot be separated from each other.
Did you watch Interstellar yet? Because I know we were talking about that.
No, but I think I really need to.
Have you seen Interstellar?
I don't believe so. Or if I have, it's been a while.
Well, yeah, Matthew McConaughey travels to possible alternate worlds because, the Earth is going to shit. There's like blight on all the plants, and, year after year, crop after crop, the Earth is literally losing the ability to grow food. Because each year or crop or what, you're literally losing different things that you can grow. Like one of the last things was corn, and that was even dying. So they're just like, this planet's fucked. We got to get out of here. So
corn doesn't grow anymore. You got a serious problem.
Long story short is, they're going to an alternate world, but you get into the ideas of time dilation, especially because gravity is different. So time and space relate different in that fashion than where we're connected here. So just in that aspect. But to me, the bigger thing was, in the movie, the idea was these other beings, or entities of energy were able to, in our perception as humans based within space and time, give us a construct that operated with gravity. So Matthew McConaughey was able to interact with this construct with gravity, or, basically putting effort or inertia or energy into something to move stuff. And it caused these different, gravitational anomalies on his, his actual timeline, as he's like out in the middle of freaking nowhere, basically. light years away and all that kind of stuff. And it's been, decades at this point, but he's able to traverse time and space to the point from a single spot that he's at, because it's now a construct that is without time and space, but built to have the perception or interaction with time or space. So he can live within it. And now you have the ability to basically go forward or backwards in time.
Because there is no difference.
Because there is no difference. Yeah. So with that mindset, this is where I'm like, with the different UFOs or UAPs or whatever you want to call it, the way we're perceiving them, or some of us are perceiving them, goes to one, being on that frequency, literally resonating within that ability to perceive it. But here's the thing is, if those things are being operated without time and space, to us, they could look like they're moving faster than light or sound, and they can, change shapes. And
what comes to mind for me is, like, if you've got that kind of technology, why would we see you or sense you at all? And that brings to mind the question that I have for you about that is, do you think, and that whatever that craft was and whatever life forms were on it, do you think they intended to be seen by you? Like, was that a call to you to let you know, Well, so the fact that I was like, talking to this star to get it to blink on or off to show me that it was or wasn't a star, and this thing did it, yes. Like you showed you were out there and you were looking up at the night sky.
Kind of, yes. So in that regard, do I believe that there's a possible, positive correlation on that I put that out and they were just like, here you are? So maybe, yeah, I can believe that.
I mean, do we show up? And that's if you're able to see things on multiple levels, you can see beyond the spectrum of light, sound, smell, touch, taste. Like, you can see beyond that to see patterns. Like, do you think a human being like us, when we're in tune with something, is like a beacon?
Well, so going to your earlier question about how, with them going in and out and all that kind of stuff, the extension to me on that is not only are we on that level, of resonance that we're able to see that. To me, it's more in that sense, as we can perceive it going in and out, makes me think of, what do they call them? Like ghosts, more or less, or poltergeist, because it's something that's on a different frequency within our realm, right, or this world, that can affect gravity and, be without time and space, more or less.
It vibrates at a different frequency, so it's more solid. So it can actually, poltergeist can actually take things, throw things, and do stuff like that and manipulate objects. So they're able to probably, whether it's the lower or the higher frequency than other entities who don't have that ability.
Well, yeah, that's why.
What's that tell you about what reality is, though? That means reality is consciousness.
Well, that's why I'm saying in relation,
what's moving those objects?
Well, in relation to the idea of in the Interstellar, where it's gravity. Well, gravity is independent of time and space. It's its own entity in and of itself. It's its own acting force. So that's why I was like, poltergeist wise or something like that, because it's literally a thing that can enact itself on physical stuff, or what we deem as physical or solid objects in this world, but they can.
And orbs are frequencies that create light. Yeah, they manifest at a certain vibration that they create a circular light.
Oh God, what's the?
Well, there's a question as to whether that's necessarily a spirit either, because you could have orbs just naturally occurring because there's static in the air, there's electricity everywhere, and prana.
Well, yeah. Well, but on top of that, I mean, we're told scientifically that we are only all molecules that are making these different structures, compounds, light fractures and all these things, or fractals. And it's all of these moving components that are on this tiny little, we can't even see, oh my God, it's so, all these little things stack up, and it makes each one of us as a human being, or, the drapes on the wall, or rugs on the floor, or cars that we drive, or the tires that are on, all these things are vibrating fractals of light and molecules as we're to understand them.
Yeah, it's fascinating, far out stuff. Yeah, what is matter? What is material? Well, is it nothing more than two forces that oppose each other, pushing against each other?
That's why I like the idea of gravity,
creating a vibratory pattern that is Philly D.
Yeah,
how is any of this possible? I mean, but you don't even have to get there to be completely astounded by human anatomy and just life itself.
No shit, dude.
When you think about microscopic mitochondria within your cells. And if one little thing was tweaked on there to make it better or worse, it would affect your life in so many, your body in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you don't even have to go all that deep just to be like, wow, you have strong mitochondria. That's a whole different person. You know, like you're capable of amazing things.
Well, yeah. And this is, it was your guy, Joe Dispenza, right?
Right.
Where he was talking about how.
My guy.
Well, because I mean, you introduced him to me, so I thought, you know, your guy. But he's telling the story of how he's doing the dishes. Yeah, dude, I know, right?
Yeah, dude, I love that story.
But yeah, like, and to me, that's the idea of like, all right, cool. So what if me and infinite me's all exist on all of the infinite parallel worlds, or you know, whatever you want to call it, as the physical construct that we, you know, enact in. Doing that, and you're on different vibratory levels. Like if you're on a different resonance, are you just kind of shifting places with yous throughout all the different parallel worlds? It's like how you can quantum leap in a sense. And now you're getting, like I said before, that Mandela effect, because the world you grew up in, Ed McMahon sent that motherfucking check to your house, and he was excited about that shit.
He was,
and then now in this world, you know, he did not do that shit. And it's
Dispenza was describing, like kind of spiritually going on a trip where he time traveled, right? So that's the whole premise of the story. And I like the way it was written, it was just, it had you on the edge of your seat. And then when you got that full circle, you were like, oh my God, it's like, you ever be in a room where there's a mirror on both sides of you?
Yeah, the infinity rooms.
It's like that kind of thing. You can just see it going on forever. And it's one of those wild things. But he had a moment though, where he went into a timeless space within his consciousness. And when he connected to that energy that is timelessness, that's why he was able to traverse that. But the funny thing is, like, he didn't even realize that it was him that was doing it. And that's what made me laugh, because it took it finally coming full circle for him to go, wait a minute. Basically, he went ahead in time, later that day, basically. He went ahead of time and then sent a loving feeling to himself. Just love, just universal love to the image of himself within, which was like a vision to him.
Yeah. Meditation, or, you know, transcendental, or out of body experience, whatever you want to call it.
And then when he comes back, he had a full circle memory of that moment when he looked out into the space beyond the window where he was washing his dish, and just got this overwhelming sense of being cared and loved for unconditionally. And it was just this really weird thing. And then like, you finally go, what? I'm reading the book, and I had to like close it for a minute. I was like, wait, let me go back.
Gonna rewind this.
What? That basically, when it finally clicked on him, he was like, holy crap, I can affect something within the future. I mean, even though it was just a tiny ripple, I mean, just think about that. Like, that's fascinating. And like, science will never figure this shit out. There's no way. Because there's no way to quantify it. There's no way to measure it. There's no way to, but I mean.
You're right.
And like, I don't know, you know, it's like people listening to me might be like, you're like the most gullible person I've ever heard of. But honestly, if 1% of the stories that you hear out there about weird, mysterious things, if 1% of those stories is true, there's still some unexplained. I got some questions. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, there's still quite a bit to it,
and that'll never end, because the funny thing about being inquisitive, the way that we are, you know, in general, is that no matter how deep you dig, there's always something else, you know, and it's more than one avenue. Like, you get to a point like, okay, it hasn't been disproved yet, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, so I mean, going back to this idea of Interstellar, where he's within a construct where perception, or you can perceive time and space, even though it doesn't exist, you know, within that construct, it's a perception of it. Now it does allow you to still have that, you know, gravitational effect, so you can still modify or enact, you know, physical solid things in different times and spaces. The story of him, you know, seeing himself and looking at himself and then realizing it later, and it's like, why not? especially when you get into that idea again of, interstellar having that perception of what time and space is. So the construct is built around it. It's not built within it. So you can perceive it and not be a part of it. But doing that,
somehow managed to do both at the same time.
But that's the thing.
What's really weird about that.
In Interstellar, the bigger thing is while he's interacting, he's only able to interact using gravity. So he can send like messages and stuff, like he can communicate and do things, but you can't see him. You know what I mean? You literally can't see him. He can see you, but you can't see him, even though you can perceive him, like you can feel his energy. And that's why I was like, it reminds me of that story of like doing the dishes and he's just like, he's feeling it and he doesn't see it, but he feels it. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's,
but he himself on the other side, he sees it, but
it's in a slightly higher set of frequency. It doesn't mean it's not here or it's not happening now. But what is now? And that calls into question like a whole bunch of other shit. Like,
yeah,
and people and the government, the U.S. government has actually spent a lot of money into trying to research that. There's been
Skinwalker Ranch.
No, but there's been a number of different. I don't remember all the names of them and stuff.
You don't remember shit. We know this.
Come on now. It's the story that's more interesting to me. It's the fact that the U.S. government actually researched into like what remote viewing and
research. No, they had projects.
Oh yeah,
they were
like spent
it was more than
millions
research.
of dollars in this black budget, like trying to figure these things out, like weaponizing people to be able to
MK Ultra and all that stuff,
travel to other countries and discover where they keep their weapons and where.
Well, so yeah, with remote viewing on, but so
or find
this. I mean, this is a whole nother conversation too. But
yeah, it's wild though because they say like when you're in that state, secrets actually vibrate at a different frequency, so you can they like glow, and you can pick them out. You ever heard of that before?
No,
get into remote like research and stuff about remote viewing.
That's why I said this sounds like a whole other episode by itself. A whole
other rabbit hole you can go down because like.
Well, I mean, I've done my research enough that I'm aware of like what it is and what they've done with it. Because I mean, there's a long list of different things that they've. Because I mean, there's even a few stories where the people have gone to the moon and to the Mars and the Mars. Yeah, because it's only the one. You can't but also doing it.
The Bears.
Built in, yeah, right. The Mars.
That's what keeps going through my head.
But it's also, you can transcend time. So they can give you the request of going to Mars and looking at stuff, but you can also do it 100,000 years ago, a million years ago, 100,000 years in the future. But to me, all of that just goes back around to this idea of what is perception of things being in or out of this reality that we are perceiving within time and space, not of time and space. Like we're in it. We're not perceiving around it. Like, again, that representation, like in Interstellar, where you can have it as an interaction because of gravity, but you can transcend time and space because it doesn't exist to you in that sense. Like it's a construct. It's an idea. It's a way to form things.
Oh, so wait a minute. I was just thinking about though that like if there's other people that are somehow manipulating all this, maybe that's why we're seeing so much Mandela effect, right? Because other people are messing with the timeline, and it's kind of shifting stuff every time they do it, right?
I would see it more as that's us resonating in and out of the different parallel worlds or times or whatever else. Because again, we're built within space and time. The big thing for all of that, though, again, right back to what I saw. So I fucking know I saw it. It really, to me, anyways, puts into that position for what it is to be based within time and space, and what does that mean? To get more to that Tesla idea of frequency, vibration, energy. Are these things not so much dipping in and out of our perceptions? Are we dipping in and out of what it is to be able to perceive them? So is it us that's coming up to them, not them coming down to us?
Well, I mean, if you want to look at it that way, I mean, that could easily explain why things disappear really quickly, because when you drop down into fear, right? That's a whole different frequency. Suddenly it's gone.
Yeah. Right.
Unlike a ghost where the fear actually heightens it somehow. So maybe it's a frequency thing there too. I don't know, but
well, yeah, because I mean, you know,
it's all speculation. That's like,
well, yeah, because I mean, you're talking about
entities
that are perceived as bright and light on, you know, a higher level, whatever that means. But then when you're on that lower level or that darker, then it's shadows. So it's not light that you're perceiving, but an absence of light in the sense.
Shadow people.
Yeah, you haven't heard of that shit, dude. You got to watch the Skinwalker shit, man. I'm telling you, we all need to because
Shadow people is in the Y-Files too, man.
Dude, that's
my newest thing. For real, the Y-Files is awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna do some conversations on these things. But that's again because of all of this, the UAP or the phenomenon that I saw in the sky. But no, it was this thing. I said phenomenon. You'd have to do it. It's like the rules. But the
shave and a haircut.
Just God damn it, he got me. Just the incident that again 7-8 seconds. I mean, it couldn't have been more than 10. I mean, this was just seconds. This one experience has taken all of these things that we've been talking about for years and really started to put it into a more finite perspective or view on how it could be. So that's why when you ask me the question of like, you know, do I feel that I had that interaction because I'm looking at the star and, you know, this thing's just off to the side and it's like, hey, bro, that guy wants us to fly by. No, I heard him. No, I totally saw it. And it's like, no, I didn't to you. I was doing it to something else.
And do you have to force yourself past that Ebenezer Scrooge stage where he's like, you know, I'm not actually seeing you. You're just like a bit of moldy bread or a chunk of rotten cheese.
Yeah, but why not?
But I mean, you question those things. Like you see something go past, like you can't review it. It happened. It's done. And then you're like, okay, well, did I really see what I just saw?
Well, that's why I started watching a couple of these side movies on like Prime and stuff and, you know, YouTube or whatever. Like I'm just grabbing different context to try, because I was trying to explain it to the two of you and you're both kind of getting different images in your heads. And you're like, you mean like this? Or you mean like, and it's just like, no, my God.
I mean, you know, it's your best friend comes to you with this stuff and like, you just want to know more.
I know, I saw some shit.
I kept telling you, I was like, I'm sorry if I'm annoying right now, but I kind of wish I was there.
Dude, I do too. Cause I'd be like, you fucking saw that, right? Cause bro,
oh, crazy. You saw that, right?
Yeah, but dude, we had that one time, you and I had that experience where there was that red and green flashing light that pretty much was like straight up over the horizon and like then went straight up and
something like that happens so quick and then it's done.
Or not red and blue.
And there's nothing to bring you back to that moment. So like, I'm sure that's happened a bunch of times and I've just forgotten about it. I mean, it calls into question. It's like, well, I've never seen anything. Well, maybe you did. And you just kind of covered it up in your own mind.
Maybe the flashing thing
if there's nothing significant enough that happens before or after that, or something to kind of solidify it,
right.
Like your brain kind of goes, it's not important, and you don't think about it. I mean, honestly, it doesn't affect the rest of my life. It doesn't, you know.
Dude, I've been thinking about this shit.
Like, how many times could that have happened? And it's not like I even had to be flashy thing. It's like, you know,
you flashy thinged yourself, basically.
Like I said, it happened, but maybe it happened like, you know, like right now, like maybe it happened at a time in my life when I had a couple to drink and maybe I was partying a little bit too much and like, you know, who knows what I saw? Maybe it was just a trick of the eyes.
But yeah, and that's why. So that to me, that's the extension of why there's no sound. It's not because it's anti-gravity, as some people want to call it. It's because it's a different resonance. It's a different vibration. It's within a different realm of space and time. So of course there's no sound. It doesn't have anything. It's not interacting with the world in the sense to allow it to have sound.
What you were seeing was just a ghost image. It wasn't even like fully in this reality. And that's why it just kind of, maybe that's why it looked the way it did. Like it didn't appear to give off light. So is there like a correlation there? I mean, it's like
there's always a correlation.
Like the Matrix, you know, like just kind of.
You just got to believe.
Like, right? What the hell? Where did that come from?
Yeah, you got to paint the word picture, pick the bullet out.
Pick the bullet out. Yeah, well, stop them first, all of them.
Well, because think about that.
One and then just.
So in that concept, you're now talking about using gravity. You know, you're using a force to enact on things.
I mean, it's code.
And
Yeah, put a name on it, but I mean, its
representation is you've modified a physical solid object that you're aware of within the construct that you're working in. You've caused it to have anti-gravitic properties. You did that. That's what he did. Yeah, it might be code. It might be,
Well, yeah, I'm thinking you just reached right through the program and went, you're no longer moving forward.
And that's why I love the idea that we're in a simulation or a video game. I keep going back to it, but to me that has the greatest sense of understanding why things are the way they are.
I don't know. It's a weird thing to wrap your head around when you realize that everything that is material that we know of is literally something vibrating at a slightly lower frequency.
Well, it doesn't. But see, and we get into these terms lower and higher, and to have it as a lower, higher representation in that sense really continues that construct idea of time and space.
There's this whole
which to me I think is like limiting. That's why we need to do more meditation, because you get to transcend the idea of time and space at that point. And I like the idea of adding in the interstellar or the gravity aspect, because Dr. Greer, he's really been pushing the idea that it's not anti-gravity. We keep calling it anti-gravitics. It's really more of, as he's saying, the ability to be within this time and space of another time and space and resonating or being able to cause the solidification, in a sense, to this world, because you can bring yourself into it. And that's why I was saying with us is like,
well, frequency modulation.
Well, so that's why
vibrating an entire vehicle that you're mentally attached to in order to drift from one vibratory reality to another.
Well, so at that point is this thing actually flying, or is it just that we perceive it as flying because it's allowing itself to be perceived in time and space, and it's choosing this space at this time?
I don't know. I think
that's why
in my mind, when you choose to lower your vibration to appear in this world, then it's like, well, you're in the matrix. So you have to fight against things like gravity. So whether it's electromagnetics that does that or not, I don't know. I think that's separate from their propulsion system. I think the anti-gravity is there, and then the propulsion system is another thing altogether. Whether it's
see, and that's, I think and this is why I like agreeing with what I've been hearing from Dr. Greer and those guys is, it seems to be more of a understanding of being based within the perception of time and space and being able to move within that. So it's not that you are anti-gravity, it's that you don't even exist in this realm, that you get to choose the time and the space in which, because that's what I'm saying. It's like, maybe
you're talking about.
Well, no, so this is what I'm saying. It's like, so maybe the UAP is literally sitting in their garage. It's just sitting up on freaking stands.
Well, it would never have to move.
It doesn't have to.
Right.
Because now you're talking about being based within perception, where you can go in and out of time and space, which we've already proven we can do that, like transcendental meditation and stuff like that, where we have out of body experiences. Our physical realm transcends time and space. So it's like, why can't we do that? So that's why I'm like, we're talking, it has to have an alternate energy source and this, that, and the other, and there's propulsion and blah, blah, blah. Dude, what if there's no propulsion whatsoever? That's why they don't make any sound, is because the simple fact is they're resonating on that time and space so that they can be seen within our realm as doing such. That's just how we perceive it. And they're just sitting at home in their freaking garage on stands in this thing.
Well, I mean, our propulsion it's noisy because it's actually burning a fuel of some sort in order to do what it does. Well, but the kind of propulsion I'm thinking of wouldn't react that way. It would, like, yes, it would need power, but once it's up, it's just running.
You also said earlier when we were
travel
talking,
would be more like creating gravity in this direction.
Yeah, but
you're not actually flying. It's just you're falling. That's why the speed isn't an issue, because you're just changing the point at which you're falling.
And you made the point earlier where you were talking about how these things not doing something means that it's not going to be interacting on air. And that's the thing is with our propulsions, our systems are things that we, you know, believe in. These flying objects, our jets and planes and whatever else, they're not frictionless. So you're also hearing this thing cutting through the wind because it's interacting with it.
Right.
So that's why, I mean, your point earlier of like, dude, it's not even on that level. And it's like, that's why I'm like, dude, are these things just, are we perceiving them dipping in and out of us or us out of them, or, you know, back and forth so that they can put themselves into our time and space, or we can actually, enter their time and space and see it.
Yeah. I don't think it's like us and them. It's more like you have to be willing, and there's knowledge beforehand that this is one of the lowest vibration realities there is. And it's really difficult. It's an absolute test. And that actually there's a lot of respect out there from, if you believe all of this stuff that I kind of have fallen into, it's like, if you believe in any 1% of all these alien races that you've ever heard of, and it's coming from all over the place, and it's been happening for a long time, whether you want to say cover up, but I mean, it's been like right out in your face in some cases. But it's like, even if you believe 1% of that, there's so much, like, I don't even, there's not that I totally lost myself. There's no words for that. Like, what the hell? Like,
well, see, this is why I go to the idea, and I really enjoy it. And, you know, I'm using the interstellar for a physical representation to kind of, you know, paint the word picture.
We're going to have to see that one now, by the way.
Yeah, you do. If these things can be perceived in and out of space and time, well, then here's the deal is we have infinite amount of Earths, Venus, Mars, all of them, because they're all represented on different timelines. Well, who's to say that all of these creatures do or don't exist on all of those timelines? They probably do. And it's us and them on whether or not we can interact. So maybe it's literally Earth, like just one of them, but with infinite timelines within itself, that all of us are literally here at the same time, just in different space, or I guess in the same space, but different times. You know, that's where you get kind of twisted on that shit. But it's whether or not we're on that level. This is why I keep trying to remove the whole higher, lower. It's like, dude, we have to be on that level.
We
have
start
to be in that
into
realm.
multiverse, and you start to lose me, because that's where it's really hard to accept. Like, there are people out there that believe that during this polar shift, you know, and all this Age of Aquarius stuff that we're really rolling into now.
Age of Aquarius. I'm sorry, I had to do that.
Some people truly believe that two Earths will be created on slightly different, varying frequencies. That's what the rapture is all about. That these two Earths will basically split. Like if you hit a gong and you watch it in slow motion, it appears to be in two places at once, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
So that the Earth will split because of this magnetic pole shift and all this other stuff, that, you know, it's just basically the righteous and the wicked kind of thing. Like, it gets separated into two, like a gong when you strike it and watch in slow motion.
Slow motion with me. Sorry. I had to do it. I had to.
I'm drinking all your beer.
And that's the thing, though, is, again, there's probably a timeline or a parallel dimension where that does happen or has happened, and we just haven't perceived it as coming to that.
Yeah, Lewis Carroll wrote a book about it. I mean,
well, this is why my big thing is, you know, everybody, you know, most of the people that we interact with that watch TV or the news or this, that, and the other, and they're all like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I exist on a different plane than you. You think the world's coming to an end. World War III is going to happen at some point. You know, aliens are definitely the UFOs, and they're going to, abduct us, kill us, murder, whatever that, all these. You're perceiving all of those things. I perceive this world as a completely different view. So I'm on that level, not higher, lower. None of that means anything. I perceive this world on a different level than you. So in my world, none of that shit's happening.
Well, see, I would equate that statement as to when you go through some of these trying moments in life, to be able to stand back from yourself and realize that I'm immortal. Like, I will never die.
I'm light and love. I'm an
and when you can
entity of
step
energy.
back in these moments where normally, you drive a sane person crazy, you can step back from yourself and just be like, everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
If this body passes on, Yeah,
I'm still here.
I don't know where to go from there. I mean, if this body passes on, then it doesn't mean it doesn't stop the consciousness, which I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
Another kind of bring it back around, but consciousness is reality. If you think about that, if you believe 1% of these ghost, poltergeist, whatever stories, if something you can't see is able to control reality around it, then doesn't that mean consciousness is reality?
That's why I like the idea of gravity.
Because what is that? You're saying, well, it's leftover energy, it's spiritual energy, whatever. But what is that? That's
designated as whatever you want, label it however you need to. But
it's just a lost. I mean, you say soul. I don't think that's really an accurate definition, but I think it's.
Well, but so that's the thing is, we are all entities. We are. We're all entities of light fractures.
Fractals.
Yeah, I keep saying fractures. Jesus Lord.
No, I got you though.
But that's the thing is, we all are. This is why, regardless of time or space, when our loved ones pass on, air quotes, pass on, they didn't pass on. Their body in this realm is perceived as no longer. They are and have been and still were and still will. And because all ideas, past, present, future, have happened already. It's just now us in that time and space, perceiving that time and space. And that's why I'm like very much on that thing that all times have already transpired. It's just now us in that space of that time that we're perceiving this component and multiple worlds within that. So here's the deal is while on this world that I'm aware of, that I'm perceiving, I don't wake up tomorrow. My body's dead. All of the other infinite worlds, some of them maybe I did, and maybe most of them I didn't. I don't know. Because I'm perceiving this world. I'm a part of this realm, this construct, this time and space right here. I don't know, but
when you realize that everything is just vibration.
Good scientists
and
do.
And the only reason I'm able to interact with you is because I have a slightly different vibrational frequency than you do. So when I touch you, our magnetic shield around our cells is never. Yeah, I mean, well, you ever hear that theory where you never
pretty
actually
sure you touched my children?
You never actually.
Oh my God!
You never actually touch anything, and if you were able to get on the same frequency pattern as this table, you could pass your hand right through it.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like we need to do some more research, come back and have these conversations some more. But yeah, we do need to wrap it up now.
We have to go now.
Yeah, we gotta wrap it up. B, you at home, if you want to continue this conversation, we would absolutely love it. Please reach out, give us your own things, just
what have you seen? Have you seen some shit?
Have you seen it? Yeah. What is your perception of all the stuff we're talking to? Like any and all of it. Like we don't care.
What if somebody wrote back and they were like, that same night, what night was that? That same night I saw that.
But yeah, no, fam, this has been absolutely amazing. We love you so much. Thank you for checking in with us. We will be back as always soon and, doing our thing. And we're going to continue this freaking conversation so much harder and deeper. As always, fam, be good to yourself. Be good to everything else.
Much love.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.